welcome to another episode of Pause for Payments. I'm Kristy Duncan, and I'm really thrilled to be here today with Sandra Alzetta, who is Vice President and Global Head of Payments at Spotify in the UK. Welcome, Sandra.
Hello, thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Today, we're going to talk about recurring payments, especially in the context of the customer experience for subscriptions. I've been looking forward to today's discussion because goodness knows Spotify clearly has subscription payments figured out, and I'm dying to learn the secrets of your success. So, Sandra, can you tell us a little bit about your payment strategy that you've got at Spotify and how the customer experience fits into that strategy?
Yeah, so let me first of all talk about Spotify. Hopefully everybody knows we're the world's largest audio streaming company, which means that we provide music and podcast content to both paying and also non-paying customers. And we have today 299 million users, of which 138 are subscribers to our paid service. And we mainly pay for premium subscriptions, and over 90% do. And the vast majority of that comprises of our customers paying directly to us. So therefore, it's super important that our payment service is efficient and effective. But what makes it really interesting is that we're continuing to evolve. And in evolving, that has a really big impact on what we do from a payments perspective. And we're evolving in different ways. We're massively changing our monetization models in terms of expanding them. So of course, subscriptions matter to us enormously. What we started with, and it's still, of course, by far the dominant revenue source for us. But we also look at advertising payments coming into us, and that's a very different model from a payments perspective. And we're building out our marketplace. The marketplace really matters to us. It's all about a two-sided marketplace where we can help our creators to really benefit from the Spotify experience, so they can sell their wares to their fans and get closer to their fans. And as we look at a marketplace from a payments point of view, that's quite a lot more complex. In addition to receiving payments coming in, we also make payments out with all of the complexities that's involved there. So quite an evolution in terms of our monetization models. And then we are also growing geographically. We just launched in Russia and 12 other markets over the summer. So we're super proud of that. And that means we're in 92 countries now. And those are 92 countries, each one's super different, as you can imagine, from a payments point of view. And then probably the third area that matters to us from a payments perspective is where we're growing out the plans and the propositions that we support. So we started with our premium service, the standard service. We then introduced family. So that's one master account with 5 sub-accounts, duo, student, and so on, and also pay as you go. And each one of those has a very different profile, different type of user, and a different requirement from a payments perspective. So lots and lots of moving parts, and we're growing throughout all of this. Last year we grew at 27%. So we need to think about that as well and what that means from a scale point of view. And our vision is to make sure that payments flow seamlessly across Spotify between our fans, creators, artists, advertisers. And what does that mean from a strategy perspective? It means a bunch of things. First and foremost, we're working on the platform itself to make sure that it's got the resilience that it needs, the flexibility, can handle the scale. And the approach we've taken here has been one of thinking through what are the different component parts we need, and looking for some real cutting edge, best of breed partners, bringing in some great tech, some real innovation, but also we've been looking for partners who can bring in some expertise as well. We want to learn from them. So that's been super important to them. And a great example here is our new fraud engine that we put in this year. where so far we've seen really super results. We've seen a huge decrease in our false declines, and at the same time, we've also improved in our fraud detection and performance. So that's that balancing act that's always so difficult to get right, and we're really pleased about that. And that's allowed us to move to a multi-processor model, which of course helps to ensure redundancy, it improves performance, and of course it also helps to improve in gross margin. So with that platform in place, we're focusing on how to optimize and how to improve our customer experience, because making sure that we're improving acquisition and retention matters very much to our customers. We don't want them to find that their payments are being declined unnecessarily. And one of the areas we're focusing on here is tokenization. So we love EMV tokenization. We're seeing already that it can make a difference to our authorization rates. And it also means that we can avoid, as a recurring payments organisation, that also annoying issue around expired cards. So a focus for us on optimization. And the other key stream that we're looking at is accessibility. How do we make sure that we've got all of the payment methods that our users want to use? So how do we make sure that we're maximising our addressable market and making available to users their preferred means of payment? Then underlining all of that is, of course, we're always looking at new developments in the payments world. What's new, what's hot, what would make sense for us. And that's important to us as innovation is really part of the Spotify DNA. And an example there is we were one of the founding members of the Libra Association because we were excited at the possibility of creating a new payment system based on the latest technology that could really open up accessibility in ways that just haven't been achieved before.
Fantastic. Well, you certainly have long days, but very exciting days, I'm sure. That's fantastic, Sandra. Thank you for sharing that. I love all of the so many different levels and layers that you have working on, you know, the fraud management and the partnering and the innovation and the customer experience and all of your different products that you're launching. It certainly sounds like a really interesting role. You talked about Spotify being in 92 countries now. That is truly, truly global. Can you share some of the differences that you see across the different countries and regions in the context of trying to do, you know, offer that seamless customer experience?
Yeah, so 92 countries, as you know, from a payments perspective, that means 92 very different markets. They are all so different. Even countries, you know, literally the borders are next to each other, and yet from a payments perspective, they vary so much. We accept cards everywhere. That's always our kind of, you know, default. But interestingly, increasingly, alternative payment methods have become more and more important to us. And that's really in response to customer needs. Big focus in Asia on mobile wallets. Why is that? There's really strong customer preference to use mobile wallets just now. So in Indonesia, I would say they're super hot. We just launched a few months ago in Indonesia with all three of the major wallets, so OVO, GoPay and Dana. People seem to like using them. It's their preference. They find them easy to top up, and it's very much of the on-the-go culture. So that's something that's very particular just now to that area. We also find that DCB is popular, and we've been busy rolling that out. That's direct carrier billing. So that's giving somebody the option of having their bill added to their carrier. So if you have a Vodafone, either pay-as-you-go or a monthly subscription, instead of paying through another payment method, you can actually add it to your carrier bill. And that's oftentimes popular for people who don't have cards, but not only them, it simply suits other people who just prefer that as a way of paying. And heavily so in Asia, but also across Europe and other markets. So a lot around the whole mobile world. But it's important also to remember that whilst we're focusing a lot on trying to make things as seamless as possible, that's not always the top priority in some markets. So in LATAM, we launched over the summer a bunch of different payment methods based on cash. Why are you telling me about cash? I hear you say. It's in the online world. Because lots of our users really either, again, have no card or prefer to pay this way. And the way it works is you print off a voucher, pay for it in a convenience store, and then you can access your Spotify. So we switched on cash-based payments in Chile, Peru, Argentina, and Colombia. And that was in addition to cash-based payments that we already have in Brazil and Mexico. So I think the message here is really figuring out what's the most important thing to our users. For some, it is just that beautiful, seamless experience. For others, it's what gives them accessibility. Really looking always at, what's the customer key requirement.
Yeah, it's so interesting how each region, each market is so very different, and there still are the cash is king cultures, where you're offering cash payment options in LATAM, for example, or even some of the digital wallets in Asia. And it's fascinating that, we in Europe and North America, in so many ways are kind of married to our cards, and the card payment is the preferred option often. But other markets, see things differently and are at different stages of that digital evolution.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
It is indeed. Tell us a little bit about regulatory environments in the different markets and how those might impact your ability to deliver a seamless customer experience, Sandra.
Well, that is super topical just now, talking to somebody in Europe. So we have something in Europe that I'm sure most of your listeners will be familiar with. It's PSD2, and it's SCA, so Strong Customer Authentication. And that's kicking in very soon. We've got our eyes firmly on that, like just about everybody else in the industry. And for anyone who's not aware, what PSD2 is a regulation, and it requires the use of multi-factor authentication for payments. So in the physical world, we have that today through chip and pin, which works super well. In the online world, we tend not to have it, and the way it's typically going to be delivered is through the use of 3D Secure 2.0 from the schemes through EMB. And from our perspective, this is quite significant. And of course, the initial idea and spirit of this is truly excellent. It's all about bringing more security to the online world, fostering innovation and competition. But of course, as always, the devil is in the detail, and there's a lot of detail here. So this implementation covers 31 countries. Each country has got its own mindset. Going back a little bit to the previous question, very different perspectives on the need for security versus seamlessness. Very different from the perspective of the issuers, from the perspective of users as well. Very different levels of preparedness. And getting this right is not an easy thing. So for an organization such as us, the good news is actually recurring payments are exempt. So that's great. But all of our initial transactions now in Europe will need to go through SCA. And in the short term, at least, this is not great news to us. Our transaction value is low. Our fraud management is really good. We've got fraud completely under control. And the downside potential in the short term is great. because the level of preparedness is what will make this either work or not work. So there, in the short term, there can be some real downsides to us. What are we doing about it? We're spending a lot of time testing and working across the industry to make sure we're as ready as we can be and giving as much feedback as possible to make it work. In the long term, I don't want to be the doom and gloom person. In the long term, this should help. This should be great. It should help to increase authorization rates. It should help to instill confidence. It should help to decrease the number of do not honour declines we see. But we know that the first few months will be tricky months. And I don't know who made the decision to switch this on as of the 31st of December. But the 1st of January, obviously our eyes are going to be absolutely on this one.
Wow. Yeah. Happy New Year to you. Yeah, that's it's going to be, I mean, the whole industry has been on edge about that for well over a year because, just getting the other pieces of PSD2 in place have been not insignificant. And I think this is kind of one of the last pieces of the puzzle, but certainly not the least. So I wish you luck with that. It's going to be an interesting journey, and hopefully the long-term impact will be positive and worthwhile.
Yeah, that's what we hope as well. We do know, as always, it will be a bumpy ride. What's keeping me positive is looking at chip and pin. When we first implemented that in Europe, I was heavily involved then. It was difficult, but ultimately it was absolutely the right thing to do and made a huge difference. So I guess an interesting question is, what will the fraudsters do? When we brought in chip and pin, they moved all of their attention to this new area of e-com. When we put in SCA, what's going to happen? Where do they move? Do they simply move to other regions that aren't moving so quickly? It'll be fascinating to see.
Yeah, you often see the fraud migrate to the weakest link. So, if it's going to be other countries in the short term, then, heaven help the countries that surround the EU that aren't subject to that and aren't doing that secure customer authentication in the new year. So Canada being one of them. Gosh, not looking forward to that either from our end.
Yeah, good luck.
I want to end on a high note. We've got, I always talk about this concept of customer delight, where you go above and beyond the expectation of the customer to make a really fabulous customer experience. And it's, obviously where we all want to be with what we do in our various organizations. What does that look like for you and your colleagues at Spotify, Sandra?
So that is such an interesting question because in Spotify, I would say that's probably the key focus always. It's really thinking of something that's new and genuinely sparks delight. And the best example I can think of there, because it's one that maybe resonates with everyone, is Spotify's Wrapped campaign. So at the end of the year, Spotify pulls together for everyone a summary, let's say, of their favorite songs, artists, podcasts, and wraps it up in a really attractive way. And people love it. It's heralded, it's awaited. People share their Wrapped with their friends on social. And it's us really trying to understand what sparks interest and excitement amongst our users. From a payments perspective, it's interesting because actually from a payments perspective, it's about getting the right mix and about optimizing the experience so that actually it's as invisible as it can be. So, a good outcome from a payments perspective is someone is able to pay with exactly the method that they want to pay, and then they kind of can just leave it alone after that because it all goes through beautifully and smoothly and there's no issues behind it. So that's, I guess, the key contribution that payments can make. the facilitation of all of the activity in as seamless a way as possible.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I agree. The whole concept of the embedded payment, the invisible payment, you know, if it's not broken, don't fix it, and then just leave it alone and don't worry about it. That's where we all want to be as customers, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I love that. That's awesome. To conclude our discussion today, Sandra, I just want to change gears a little bit and talk about you and your amazing career. I'm so jealous of being global head of payments at Spotify. It sounds so exciting and so interesting. Can you share some of your secrets of career success and, you know, tell the audience what you would recommend to your younger self if you were just looking at starting a career in payments today?
To my younger self, I guess the key start always would be do what you love. And of course, the key reason for that is life's too short to do anything else. But also, I would say, without question, we all perform best when we're doing something that we love. And that can sound like a really trite comment. And it's actually not easy, because I would say, to anyone, really test yourself. Make sure that what you're doing is genuinely the thing that you love. And a great way of testing that is, do you actively look for and look forward to reading something, listening to a podcast on what you're working on? And if the answer is no, not really, it's a bit of a drudge, then problema. So really, make sure that you're thinking through, are you doing the right thing? Are you doing something that genuinely excites you? So I think that's probably the first thing. Second, I would say is keep learning. If you're in a job and it feels now that it's reached the rinse and repeat phase, then it's time to move. And I think probably for me, one of the best career moves that I made was when I was at Visa, and I was doing a job that I loved dearly. I was lucky enough to be the head of the Southern Europe region, and it was a tremendous job. But I got to a stage where I'd been doing it for a while, and it felt like it was moving into a rinse and repeat mode, and it was definitely time for a change. And I made a change. It was a lateral move into what was then some fledgling activity in the e-com world. And without question, it was the best move I ever made. And so I would just say, just keep that focus on keep learning. Also, I would say, surround yourself by the best people that you can. If you find that you're in a situation where you're looking around the room and you're not that impressed by your colleagues, that's not a great place to be. So make sure that you're working with people that you think, these are really smart people and I can learn a lot from them. And then I think the last thing is, and I know it's a cliche, but I don't care, the power of the network. I just can't emphasize it strongly enough. And I would say, be intentional about this and make the relationships honest and authentic. So it's finding relationships with people who you respect and you like, and really developing that. And for me personally, I would say that my network has helped me enormously. It's given me a lot of support. It's given me some fantastic advice. And I would also say, of course, it's a two-way situation. Be as generous with your time and encouragement as you possibly can be. It's probably the best investment you can make.
I love those insights. They're so well informed by such a fabulous career. And I always talk about networking, so I'm glad you mentioned that. But Gosh, doing what you love, it doesn't that make life so much more enjoyable? I mean, it allows you to address those challenges with vim and vigor and get excited about things. Oh, this is a fun little thing. How can we do this better? And the lifelong learning ties in so nicely with that. So it's a lovely, well-rounded set of insights, Sandra. Thank you for sharing.
My pleasure.
This has been a fabulous discussion, Sandra. I thank you so, so much for this. And it's been my absolute pleasure to bump into you on a wharf a year or two ago on Embankment Pier after the Brit Awards. How lucky was I to make your connection? And I'm so delighted to learn more about what you do at Spotify. Thanks for that.
Well, thanks, Kirsty, and it was great to bump into you in that dark pier. And share it together.
It was a great story. So thanks again. I'm going to encourage all of our audience to join us for this, of course, and other Pause for Payments episodes that we have with fantastic women from around the world in payments to be inspired and to learn from their insights and learn more about the global payments ecosystem. So thanks everybody for listening.